What's going on, everyone? This is aXpire's COO Matthew Markham. It is November 12th, 2019. I just wanted to take this time to answer some questions from folks in the project in the Telegram aXpire official community. We had a few questions come in and we really wanted to take a sec just to step back, make sure your questions are being answered and everyone's happy with the direction we're going. If there's any feeling that maybe we could be more engaged in Telegram, completely understand that. Just want to convey that it's not out of a distance from Telegram or anything like that. It's really around our focus on building a proper business and getting back to business basics 101 and just spending some time being hands-on with product development, being hands-on with customers, and being hands-on making aXpire a successful business. So let's start to look at some of the questions that have come in and we can start to really tick through things and find out what's important for us, and hopefully this gives you some more insight and keeps you happy, even if I can't, or Gary can't, be more involved in the day-to-day Telegram aspects of things. Okay, so first question is, in what ways can aXpire collaborate with other crypto projects? Can aXpire's products benefit other crypto projects? And do you guys have examples? So I think you've seen some of what we've done with the aXpire blockchain community. We've been very supportive of projects like Parjar and really giving them light and time of day to show other folks in the community this is the type of project that we want to work with. They've got a real product, they've got folks using it, they've got real adoption. That is what we want to have at aXpire too. So that's one in which we're supporting and looking at supporting through kind of an investment thesis. Same goes for Pay with Moon. On the more product side of things, you can look at examples like Hydro, or maybe even the folks that we used to work with there who are now at Wire, which is a payment gateway or crypto payment gateway company. Those are the types of companies we want to work with. We've spoken briefly about companies like VeChain that we want to emulate, and that's more specific to our B2B products, and that's important. So yes, we can elaborate a little bit more on what we're looking to do with different projects as partners, and it's really a mix of both investments and incubation through the aXpire blockchain community, and then more so incorporation into our products through things like Hydro, things like Wire, things like Claros, which you saw more so with Matchbox, and we're looking if that's more of a fit for something like Paybox if we have any disputes arising around the use of that product by its customers or anything like that. So the arbitration features that Claros had, while initially intended for Matchbox, given that we've shelved that, could still work for something like Paybox. The next question we have is around Billa. Can we elaborate a little bit more about that? And sure, the quick and easy answer is it was actually part of Resolver for a long time, in terms of it being a very quick and easy way for vendors, legal and non-legal vendors, that is, to submit invoices, to have them tracked, to create them in the leads format, which is a global invoicing standard that one of our core team members sits on the board of. And now we've decided to basically make it a standalone application as well. So relatively easy on the desktop side of things from a development perspective. However, it still requires a full app behind it, just so there's cross-product functionality, if that makes sense, or rather cross-device functionality. So Billa is essentially a very clean invoicing application, creation, management, and more importantly, kind of invoice cleansing application. This is really what makes us stand out from the other applications. So I would say, even if we're exactly the same as every other application out there, in terms of the features and functionality, we have way better UI UX. But beyond that, we actually have features that others don't have. So we have speech to text, which is pretty helpful because lawyers, what they do today is they'll get to the end of the month, their partner, if they're an associate or if they're a partner themselves, will get a reminder to basically fill out all their billable hours and send it to the client at the end of every month. Big pain. A lot of lawyers do not like this process. It's not conducive to more revenue. It's in fact quite cumbersome and obviously not something that they signed up to do as a lawyer. They're more looking to practice law. So that's really what we had front of mind as a means to create Billa, or as a reason to create Billa. So what we have with a speech-to-text functionality is a lawyer could be on a bus on the way to a client, in a taxi, whatever, on the move in general, on the plane, and could just speak into their phone. That invoice description or the expense description will be sent to their billing clerk, which is a person that they have at the firm that sends these invoices to the client. And that billing clerk could really take that voice input and create an invoice out of it. So that's kind of one means to make the lawyers' lives easier. Same applies for other vendors. If you're someone who bills someone else with an invoice, this is something for you. And then another feature which we have, which others don't, beyond just having the best UI UX, in my opinion, and of course I and aXpire team, we're biased, but we have something called invoice cleansing. And in our sister company, LSG, we've saved companies $500 million, $500 million of costs from law firms and other vendors by basically picking apart their invoices and saying, okay, this, and this is not in line with the contract that we signed. I'll take that back. Thank you very much. That is not something you can charge me for. And on average, that's, call it 6 to 11%. So what we've done with Billa is essentially say, okay, instead of having that same conversation with our clients from the sister company LSG about basically saving you money from legal invoices, we're going to go to the law firms instead this time. And instead of a cost-cutting discussion, it's a revenue generation discussion of that 6 to 11% that you're losing on every invoice. Now you're going to get it back because all the invoices going through Billa are going to be cleansed, quote unquote, or going to be highlighted for areas that a client would point out as means for them to save money from the invoices you submit in advance. You're going to clear these issues in advance. You're going to send it to the client, and you're going to get closer to 100% than you did before. So it's more revenue, which all drops down to your bottom line. There's no incremental costs associated with that other than Billa. However, you'll be ROI positive on Billa very quickly. We're talking about within a year, within 6 months, potentially within a couple of months, depending on how large that revenue loss is to your clients based on errors in invoicing. The next question has a bit of a long answer, is will aXpire extend our focus to supply chain industries and hope to help their adoption of blockchain? And the answer is we are interested in that area as a general, logistical headache heavy area or industry, but we're really quite focused on financial services. So I think something we've learned as a general lesson in aXpire is to stay focused on what we're good at. And we're good at invoicing, and we're good at compliance software. We're good at really what's known as enterprise resource planning software, ERP, which is made famous by companies like SAP, Oracle, Salesforce to an extent. And we're going to stick in that area more so. So we're not really going to edge too much into the supply chain world, other than if they reach out to us. So this has kind of been our strategy with things like digital shares, whereby we have great solutions for generally creating a digital framework to improve existing processes. And if there's interest from a client who comes to us, we'll give them the product. However, we're not going to spend our time necessarily going after them just because it's not a focus area or an expert area that we have a strong history in, so if they come to us, we'll definitely offer it to them. But I think it's not so much a focus area because we can get a high yield on our time with funds. So good question, but it's more of a long-term thing that we will get logistical or supply chain focused clients who have logistical headaches that could do from or benefit from a digital solution to solve their issues. So, and that does happen. I know that sounds wishy-washy, but we do have clients being onboarded right now who came to us with digital shares, for example, and we haven't put any feelers out other than doing some thought leadership, and that's how they found us. So we'll keep doing the thought leadership, and if people come to us, we'll definitely engage them. Otherwise, we're not going to spend too much time in that, which is because it's outside of our area of expertise. So the next question is, when your flagship products are finished, how are you going to help your products get to clients even quicker? Well, I think one thing you'll see in 21st century software products is the fact that there's a very light touch or zero touch model that new companies are using, whereby a client can find your product, download it, or in the case of a SaaS business, open a new browser and it's there, or sign in and it's there and ready to go. And there's some maybe explanation videos on how to use the product, but otherwise it's something they can quote unquote sell themselves on and start using without any salespeople being involved. So that's the kind of model that we're looking at to make going to market quicker with things like Billa and Resolver. So the next question is, are any new products on the way that we as a community don't know of? And it's a great question. I know we've been slightly transitioning away from things like Matchbox to focus really on just the ERP products that we have, and that's Resolver, that's Billa, which is our B2B businesses, Paybox, which is our B2C business, and then digital shares, which is a little bit of both, but mainly a B2B front office, quote unquote, product for funds and other folks who have investment deals that they want to share with their investors. So those are the products that you all know about. There's nothing new. I think we've learned from deciding not to go down the Matchbox path any further that it's really good to stay focused. And so we're going to stay focused on those. I think maybe what you don't know is the fact that there are new developments with clients in those areas all the time. With Resolver, we have probably 3 or 4 who are, I'd say, mid to late stage sales cycles. It takes a long time. There's a well-known computer tycoon, for example, who's got a family office, and we are relatively late stage in discussions with them, and it's really at their discretion. Like with a B2B software sales cycle, it can take anywhere from 6 months to 4 years. I have friends who do this in things like payments for, Stripe, for Venmo, for larger companies. And they'll say that their big clients, the elephant clients, take their sweet time to be ready to use it because it's a big investment, but also a lot of revenue to these software companies. So they're patient to wait. And a good example is Adyen, who is a payments company like Stripe. And this company Adyen, a Dutch company, won eBay over PayPal to be their payments processor. And that took them 4 years. So, these things take time sometimes, and it's unfortunate, but if any of these deals come through, it's a complete game changer, and we'll be sure to incorporate that into our tokenomics to ensure our community benefits as well. So be patient, and I know it's frustrating because in the world of crypto, we're used to things moving extremely fast, but good things come with time. So we're working on it, trust that we're working on it, and we're happy to answer any more questions, but that's the strategy. So the next question is token utility. Do we have any future ideas for that? I think we've emulated what Binance is doing just because they've been relatively in the hot seat as a US-centric product with a new exchange. And if they're not being attacked, then we're relatively comfortable that it's a defensible model. So we're going to stick within those boundaries, more or less. I think the one thing we do want to look at is staking. However, we have to keep very aware of the security aspects of that. So we're not going to go too far outside of the realm of what Binance is doing for the fear of regulatory reprisal. However, if we can get away with staking, even if that means potentially creating some other structure for a token, obviously we're not going to do outside the boundaries of what people have already been vested in. So for example, if you hold 100 aXpire tokens XPR, we're not going to say that you have to buy a whole new set of tokens. It could be something that you just have an option to get 100 tokens that have staking rights or something like that outside of aXpire, or it could be within aXpire. I'm more or less just trying to convey that we're going to need to be very cognizant of the legal repercussions of doing something like staking, but we're excited by that and are looking at it. And there's models out there like Ethos that we're studying right now. So more to come on that. Just want to be cognizant of the fact that it's very much contingent on the legal liability. So are different offices around the world have different focuses? No, but good question. Do we want to become a household name like SAP and Oracle? And this is me just ticking through the questions, by the way. Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd want to be like SAP and Oracle. They're very successful companies. Every time I drive to the airport, I drive past the equivalent of a giant warehouse, which is an SAP building. Probably hosts 5,000 people in that office, just to give an idea of how large they are. And if we could have something like that, for sure, we'd love to do that. I think what they did at their origin was make sure they had a very strong product market fit. And that's really why we've been spending so much time kind of off of Telegram, outside of the limelight, doing that. Because if you get it right, and I think we found that we have with Resolver in its early stages, and more to come on that, you'll be highly rewarded when you decide to scale it up, bring in salespeople, or even just ramp up your digital marketing, or ramp up your sales efforts to get more people using it, that you'll create a model that's sustainable. And so I think, yeah, we would want to be an SAP and Oracle, slightly different industries that we're starting on focusing with, but similar idea in terms of we want to help communities of businesses improve their operations and become an operational efficiency software expert. So yes, we'd love to be like them. Team size, about 25. What's the deal with the new exchanges? So exchanges kind of move at their own pace. Some of them have pay to play where it's 300, 400,000 and you're on the platform. Like I can't name any because I'm wary of NDAs that have been signed, all the different ones we have outstanding. So not going to comment on specifics, but there is pay to play, but it's the question of how much sustainable value does that create for us? And we're really focused on creating a profitable business first, above all else. Like once we have a profitable, sustainable business just from our aXpire products, we can start to flow that down into the token. We can start to flow that into new exchanges, and that will come. But as CZ himself tout, Biddle, I guess. And that's really just focusing on creating a sustainable product that people love first. So the next question is, what are our main kind of problems? And I kind of touched on that. It's really operational efficiencies that we can create in a software environment. So for the digital shares product, for example, this is more of a front office solution whereby we can create a digital version of onboarding investors and showing investors deals. That's highly valuable. There's no real equivalent of that in the fund world right now. There is a young company, it's 10 years old, called Case Group, CAIS. I think they're a great model to emulate. That's what we're looking at. And as probably the only one that's doing it right now in the traditional space, they are 1,500 fund managers deep. And I think we're looking to emulate that. It's like payments. It's a massive white space for companies attacking it from a new angle. So still think there's room for multiple players in there, and it has not been saturated by any means. But the real goal that we're trying to achieve with our products is operational efficiencies. So the final question is kind of our statement on the next 3 years. I think really now that we've got product market fit with Resolver, we're looking to get product market fit with Billa and digital shares and obviously Paybox too. And that's going to be another year probably, to be honest. And it's a bit of a long slog, I realize that. I would even say, just for the sake of having some margin of safety built in, let's call that a year and a half. So a year and a half, we've got all our products ready. They've got product market fit. What are we going to do for the next year and a half to really gain some traction? And this is really going to be all about getting digital shares, or digital market share, on the online web. And that's basically just built on efficient digital marketing and low or no touch sales processes. So having people access our products without us having to sell to them actively and let them start using it without us being actively involved, that will get us very rapid scale. And I think if you look at some applications out there, and it's kind of crazy to say, could you be a unicorn in 3 years? There's multiple examples of software apps and products out there with a low no touch sale method once they found product market fit, which really takes the majority of the time, of reaching 100,000 users in, call it 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Like, that sounds crazy, but there are multiple examples of that in the startup world that we see for those companies who've, say, been around for 3 or 4 years and they've just really solved that product market fit issue. Now that they've got that done, they're scaling and it's going really well. And I think that's really the model that we're looking to emulate. So still very hopeful on that. I think one of the toughest things is finding what is value add for the customers. And so that's what we've been spending the majority of our time on, but very hopeful for that in terms of our kind of next step or the next 3 years, and still think we could be on track. So very hopeful for the clients that are going to start using it once we've reached product market fit with all our products. And I think we're going to stay focused and just remain on the topic of building a good business and being a startup as it relates to all those models taught by Peter Thiel, Eric Rice, all those folks who write the lean startup books, and just making sure, first and foremost, you've got revenues that are recurring and continuous because you've got something that's highly valuable to your customers. So as I said, if we're not in Telegram as much, that's why. It takes a long time of being in your customers' offices, being with your developers and conveying how you can relate those problems to solutions that truly solve those problems. And it just takes time. Like, we're blessed by a great community and appreciate all the support you've been giving us, and we're working hard. So hopefully we'll have some new client news to share by the end of the year, but stay with us, and I'm hoping that this was helpful. If it was, let us know and we'll do more of these, and just an efficient way to answer a bunch of questions at once. And if there's anything missed, please give us a shout at info@aXpire.com or leave us a note in the official group. Thank you.